While cleaning out her grandparents' home, Sherri came across a 1990 newspaper clipping in her grandma's stuff about a missing teenager, Kari Lynn Nixon, written by Lane Willard. The Clovis Police Department is seeking information on a missing 19-year-old New York girl who may have been sighted in Clovis. Kari Lynn Nixon has been missing for more than 2 years. She was last seen walking home from the grocery store in Osable Forks, New York, at 9:30 p.m. on June 22, 1987, carrying a bag of groceries. The New York State Police notified the Clovis Police Department that it had received the lead as a result of a television presentation of the investigation by Unsolved Mysteries. The television program reported a call saying that the girl may have been seen at North Plains Mall in Clovis. The description is of a girl who looks about 15 to 16 years old, has long reddish-brown hair, was about 5'3" tall, with 2 earrings in her left ear, 4 earrings in her right ear, and 1 turquoise ring on her left hand. Carrie, who was born May 2, 1971, is described as 5'3", 106 pounds, with shoulder-length brown hair and blue eyes. This sparked her curiosity on this case that uncovered a deeply disturbing and sad abduction and murder of a beautiful 19-year-old girl, a New Kids on the Block connection, 2 Unsolved Mysteries episodes, and once again, proof that evil lives everywhere, even small, close-knit communities where doors are not locked and kids play after dark. This is a case of Kari Lynn Nixon, and this is Outline of a Murder. Okay, it is time for our third mini-series of Outline of a Murder.
Woot woot!
Woo! Super excited.
Very exciting. Everyone's raising their arms, so.
What's wrong with yours? You can't raise your arms? Oh, what was that?
Like a bird.
Okay. Anyway, my name is Sherri.
Look like you're asking for help. At first, you're like, I'm giving this no effort. And then it went up to more help.
We have our special guest, Big Bird, here with us today.
Whatever.
All right, go ahead and hit us off with introductions.
Hello. I am Elena.
I'm Mom.
And I am Sherri. This is Outline of a Murder. We are going to do local cases.
Don't.
Yes. And, local, but also regional, because there's some that's not like exactly in our areas. There's also one that is not even in our area. It's the first one, but it has a local connection, which I'm going to tell you guys about. And we're having local drinks.
Correct.
Right. So with us being dominant Texas, California, New Mexico people, we're starting off with Texas tea. Now, Texas is famous for their tea. So this brand is Sugarland Sweet Tea. So
there's a drink called Texas tea that has alcohol in it. Just saying.
Always Mom taking us back to the alcohol. But we didn't. Cheers.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
Wow. Delicious.
That is good.
Oh, I love Texas tea. I don't drink sweet tea, but that is good.
That is
and
good.
it is sweet. So
What
if you got
brand
a
is
sweet
that?
tooth,
Oh, just
Sugarland,
Texas tea.
like I just said.
Sugarland.
I literally.
They make it in Sugarland. I didn't hear Sugarland.
This is going to be
I
fun.
just heard
We
Texas
said it
tea,
again, and you're like,
sweet tea.
I could see you were reading it. You were,
Like what? Where's it from? Sugarland Sweet Tea. Okay.
we say it.
I know where Sugarland
and then
is.
Sugarland. It's all right, Mom. You're
It's
cutesy.
yeah, whatever. All right. Okay, so this case, isn't it delicious? Yeah, that is delicious, and I bet in my part of the country, New Mexico probably has it.
You think?
At least close to the Texas border, they'd have it.
Yeah.
If not, we need to pile you up with
Oh,
some.
that's delicious. Okay.
And let me just say, the Texas shape with the Texas state logo, giving shout outs.
Yes. And Imperial Sugar
Made
is
with
what.
Texas water. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Well, good to know.
Yes.
It wasn't imported.
Right. It's not imported from, I don't know, Canada or Mexico or something. That's strange. All right. So this case is of Kari Lynn Nixon up in New York, which it could kind of be local in a way because my father-in-law is from Rochester.
Right.
But what happened is, Dad passed away in July, and I was going through all of the belongings because, he had Grandma and Grandpa's stuff as well. And he actually had very little. But I found a treasure trove of Grandma's stuff in the buffet. So, in the kitchen when you walk in and right next to the door. And I was shocked because I found this newspaper article from March 4th, 1990. And it says, police seek information on missing New York teenager. And it says the Clovis Police Department is seeking information on a missing 19-year-old New York girl who may have been sighted in Clovis. So my grandparents lived there. Kari Lynn Nixon has been missing for more than 2 years. She was last seen walking home from a country store in Osable Forks, New York at 9:30 p.m. on June 22nd, 1987, carrying a bag of groceries. The New York State Police notified the Clovis Police Department that it had received a lead as a result of the television presentation of the investigation by Unsolved Mysteries. How many watched that?
Yeah.
Right here. Yep.
Is that still on?
They tried to redo it. It didn't really take off well,
okay.
so I don't know if they've continued.
Okay.
The television program reported a call saying that the girl may have been seen at the North Plains Mall in Clovis. The description is of a girl who looked about 15 to 16 years old, had long reddish-brown hair, about 5'3" tall, with 2 earrings in her left ear, 4 earrings in her right ear, and 1 turquoise ring on her left hand. Carrie, who was born May 2nd, 1971, is described as 5'3", 106 pounds with shoulder-length brown hair and blue eyes. If anyone has any information on Kari Lynn Nixon or what may have happened, call Lieutenant Raymond Mondragon.
Did they have
She was
cameras there?
little.
Yeah, she's a little one.
I don't...
Because if they had cameras there, do they know for sure it was her in Clovis?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
But this is the newspaper article that I found, and y'all could see her picture there. I've got another one of her as well. But I thought it was interesting that my grandmother kept that. I don't think that she was really into true crime. I mean, we would watch Matlock and Murder, She Wrote and, those. But me and Dad were the true crime people. So anyway, I thought it was interesting. And when we get into who did it, it may have been after they were already passed away, or at least grandmother was. So anyway, they did find the killer. But to answer your question, no, she was not ever in Clovis. But there were a lot of sightings of her all over the place, including a twist, which we'll get to. It's very interesting.
Maybe she kept it because it said Clovis. You know what I mean?
Maybe. But, it's like, okay, was she there? And maybe she kept the picture, too, in case she saw her,
Oh,
That
yeah.
could be, too.
Yep.
Yeah, because I don't think she knew that they caught the killer and that they found her. So she may have kept it for that purpose. So I'm immediately intrigued, of course. And I was very happy that the killer has definitely been caught. So we'll have that at the end. And then, it was hard to get a lot of information on this case at first. So it's going to be a short and sweet one. But I did find some more information on this on Unsolved Mysteries. I watched that segment. And then they had an updated episode later. And then also, if anyone wants to watch Nightmare Next Door, Small Town Secrets, I got a lot of information from that episode because it was really hard to find any data, because it's like when you go back so far, they don't have a lot of that stuff. I'm about to start getting into like FOIA requests and things like that to try to find more information on cases.
What'd you say?
FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. So you can
yeah.
use those to get, like some police records and things so that you can really look into the case.
And the FBI sites.
But they didn't have it on
had-
the FBI
they
because it's
didn't?
solved. Yeah, they didn't have any information there. And I ran into that again on the bonus episode with this series, Lunch with the Killer. in which I interviewed a local friend who had lunch with the killer, didn't know it, but the red flags, etc., all of it was spot on to what we do in our seasons. And that's, you got to pay attention to the red flags. You got to be smart. And I couldn't find much on the case at all. I could only find some court records on an appeal. So I was able to get enough but the main thing was, he said, when he was describing everything, it's like, my gut just told me something was wrong and things weren't adding up. But he also shares how naive he was and how it could have ended up really bad. So it's a neat episode. Just a quick warning, if you listen to the bonus, we don't go into gruesome detail, but a 4-year-old is the victim. And so just so people know. Okay, so the victim in this case, though, Kari Lynn Nixon, she was a 16-year-old junior. She lived in, it's actually called Osable, not Osable, Osable Forks, New York. This little village is in the New York Adirondack Mountains. Its population is like 3,000 people, so
Small.
just picture a very small town, hardworking people. It's in the 80s, just like you wouldn't think that would happen there. It's like you send your daughter out on an errand or your son, and you don't think, especially back in that day.
No, you didn't.
I mean, we lived in Odessa, Texas, and I rode my bike everywhere.
And we left our doors open too.
And Odessa was rowdy. Like there was definitely crime. We had a serial killer, Otis Toole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, him and his gay lover.
Wasn't it his cousin? They were
think
lovers, but
what was his name? He's a poop bird. Anyway, they killed a prostitute, and her body was actually found down the street. So we didn't live in the best part of town, but I rode my bike everywhere, and I had to be in by dark. So imagine Odessa, Texas, hard-nosed oil town, lots of, guns, drinking, all that stuff. And it was no big deal. And then I did have perimeters, though, but like any kid, I pushed the boundaries and went past them. But, in this environment, it's like you said, you didn't lock your doors. Everybody felt safe. And I just cannot imagine what the parents felt. So violent crime was very rare there. It was 1987. And, we lived in Childress. I lived in Childress, and it was like a population of between 5,000 and 6,000. We didn't lock our doors ever. And it wasn't until I think about 5 years ago that my grandma started locking her doors before she passed away.
really?
Yeah.
5 years ago?
And I'm like, my doors are always locked. And and by the way, this was on the Facebook because I post like tips and stuff. When you get in your car, and a lady shared it on her Facebook page. It was so good. Most people, when they get in their car, they'll grab their phones and they sit there. And she said,
door.
You need to lock your door, and within 90 seconds, you need to be moving. Don't get on your social media or text or anything like that. I lock it the minute I get in my car.
I do too.
And so anyway, times are definitely different. She was kind of quiet but friendly, and the whole community was quaint. It was a family-oriented community. She was friendly. She was family-oriented too. Her sister Lori said that she was friends with everyone. She was really kind, and that she idolized her, her bigger sister. So Lori was 2 years younger, and she was a tomboy. Kari Lynn was a girly girl.
Oh, so just the two of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she liked her hair done and
you
all
could
that.
tell.
Mm-hmm, her earrings and stuff. And I've got another picture of her, which I think is closer to what she looked like when she went missing. So there she is.
Oh,
But she's
yeah.
sweet, huh? She has a really sweet face. You could tell.
And she was 15, you said? 16?
16.
Junior,
Yeah, she was a junior. And she was super excited because, good grades in school. She was a pitcher on her high school softball team. She loved singing. She was an aspiring writer. She also had a little brother, John. So she would, she's an older sister. She'll take care of her little sister and her little brother. She wanted to work with children when she grew up. So she was about to start her first job as a camp counselor. Because, you have to be a certain age before you can be a camp counselor. And she had just gotten her driving permit, and she was super excited about driving.
Just the beginning of everything.
And I remember that age. I remember all of that. It was
exciting. Yeah.
I wanted to get a job, but Dad said I didn't need one.
What?
He just handed me money. I'm like,
But it was
I kind
fun
of
to
wanted
work.
a job.
Yeah.
So I finally got one my senior year. But now, on the evening of June 22nd, which, if you're up north, a lot of times the evenings can be cool.
Yes.
Up there, where like here, it's like you sweat if you step outside.
Yeah.
But up north, it's definitely cooler in the evening. Well, this day it was colder than normal, and that will be important in a second. Carrie's dad, Gary, he wanted some soda and chips.
Oh.
So he asked Carrie to run down to the local store. It was just a few blocks away. It was called Thomas's Country Store. And she didn't want to because it was kind of cold, and she didn't want to go walk in. And she asked Lori to go with her, but Lori was like, no. She had played hard that day, and she was super tired. Mm-hmm. So she left a little before 9:30 to get the snacks for her dad. And then her parents fell asleep on the couch. And her mother, Kathy, woke up and went to bed not long after Carrie left. And then she woke up the next morning at 6 a.m. and she went into Carrie's room to wake her up because I guess she had like a safety class that she had to get to that morning. And her mom, knew that she would not want to be late. So she was going to wake her up early, and she wasn't there. And the bed was rumpled, so she thought she was already up because she was super excited about her class. And so she went searching around the house trying to find her, and she couldn't. So she called her mom, Carrie's grandmother, who lived right across the street. Carrie was there a lot visiting with her, and so she thought, well, maybe she went over there. She wasn't. So now Kathy's getting scared because she's like, where is Carrie? It doesn't make any sense.
Sneaking out wouldn't be an option because she sounds real.
She was a real good kid.
Responsible.
Yep. Very kind. So I don't think she had that in her. Now, me, on the other hand, if my parents woke up and didn't see me, I was probably, snuck out.
Oh, not me.
Bad things.
Not me.
Yeah.
Nope.
I did that almost every night.
Oh,
for a
never.
while.
I did once or twice myself.
Never.
And I'm not sure. It was kind of confusing because, again, I didn't have a lot of details. I'm not sure if her dad, Gary, woke up or if the mom went and woke Gary up. But he was told, Carrie's missing. And he said that he woke up at 1 a.m. on the couch wondering where his snacks were. And he went to the kitchen and he didn't see them. So he thought that Carrie probably put them up when she got back and saw that he was asleep. So he didn't think anything of that either. And then he went to Carrie's room and he swore he saw her in there and even patted her leg.
Okay.
Oh.
But the fact is she was never back.
Unless it was like a mind situation where he was still really groggy and that was just, his mind maybe not playing tricks on him, but.
Well, and if you think about, like teenagers with their beds.
Yeah.
Maybe the blankets were rumpled or she had a pillow under there or something. And then, he's just patting her because it's dark.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's groggy. When I first read that, I was all, did the dad do it? You know what I mean? Like instantly. But then I'm like, no, they seem like a really neat family. It doesn't seem like that's anything that he would have done. But obviously my antennas were kind of up. But that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, okay, so if you take some of the cases we have looked at or even some of the cases I've watched where they're like, that person did it.
Right.
On as little as that.
Yep.
Like,
or behavior,
why did you lie?
Or not crying enough.
Why did you say you pat her on the leg?
Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, that's stuff that has gotten people put in prison that did not do it.
Yeah.
And so it's scary how little. Like, we might investigate the Beatrice 6 case, and it's kind of like the Memphis 3, where one person says that she did it, and then the blood didn't match. So now they're just grabbing all these people, and then finally they got released the 6 people that were wrongly convicted because a cop got myopic vision on these 6 people. They had to have done it. He was obsessed, and sure enough, DNA got their original suspect.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm surprised they didn't go after the dad.
There's not a rule
because
on
of
how
that.
you're supposed to act.
To me, I'm I agree for sure, because you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't act normal.
I watched the show the other day and immediately thought the son did it, and so did the police. Because he said his mom was murdered and she had some money, and he said, was she in one piece? You know,
That's a weird statement.
it is, and they zoomed in on him, but he was in class. It showed, but had he not been,
Like, why
been
would you
trouble.
ask, is she in one
no.
piece?
Well, his friend said later, I just saw it, that he was a little odd how he spoke and
Okay.
said things. But still, if
Yeah.
he wouldn't have been in class, he'd probably be in jail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think that, like, for me, obviously I'm not a detective, but I would think, okay, I'm going to take note of that, and you just trust the evidence. Mm-hmm. You know, just trust wherever it takes you. That's all, to me, that would be the safest way. But I'm really bad. But so far I've been correct. But I'm really bad, like, Murdoch or Fathead, whatever his name is. He did it.
Right.
There was another one. Oh, the Gabby Petito. I'm like, he's committed suicide, And I think maybe what could happen is either inexperience or, when you study even true crime, you're not being professionally trained. You start seeing patterns. You start seeing certain things are pretty much common in cases.
Yep.
And so I could see where you'd be like, he did it.
And also,
And didn't.
if it's in your mind a little bit too, your mind can make the evidence fit how you want.
100%.
So even if he kept it in the back of his mind that that's who did it, you can make your mind.
Yeah.
You can do that on anything. not
Oh,
just
yeah.
murder.
Your mind's powerful.
Well,
The brain.
And that's what I was about to say, the brain, because, it's kind of like if you decide to buy a certain car, all of a sudden you see it everywhere.
Right.
Because the brain will always focus in on where your attention is. And so that's why, to me, it's like, okay, definitely note that, but you got to get your brain off of that for right now and just let the evidence lead you to the conclusion. Because if you're not careful, like you said, every piece of evidence will support your supposition.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's still weird, though. I'd still be looking at the kid like,
I do
you
that
hire
today.
someone.
I'll think one way and I make my mind, or it just does it automatic. I'll say, no, he's guilty, or he's stealing, or
Well, in all fairness, on the Murdoch case, I was not sure at first. I was suspicious just because Maggie was killed. Like, if it was the families trying to get back at losing their daughter, to me, they would have just gone after the boy.
I know.
So
right?
Maggie being killed was suspicious, and then the whole Hollywood setting where he almost gets shot in the head, or and I'm like, okay, you did it.
I had Susan. She
too
doesn't
much.
watch true crime too much. She watches like Brit Box and stuff. And she watched the Murdoch special, and she goes, "Boy, what Stevie Wonder could see that coming."
Right. Right.
Yeah, because it was sort of obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she says that all the time.
Okay. Now, Lori and her brother knew something was up, obviously, because their parents are getting a little bit frantic. Phone calls are being made. Where's Carrie at? They weren't scared until they saw their parents' terror.
Yeah.
And then they knew, okay, something really bad has happened. Lori said something happening to her just didn't seem possible where we lived.
Sure.
And I mean, again, like they had to call in the state police to investigate because they had
Right.
such a small police force. And that, that saying, it's a myth. It is a myth when people think, that doesn't happen here. It is 100% a myth. I just listened to a case by True Crime Garage guys. Shout out to them if you ever listen to our podcast. Love you guys. Been listening to you for like 2 years, and I have not listened to any other podcast
Me either. I
because I'm
haven't
going to
either.
get through every single episode. But I was listening to Spooky Town on the way up here, or Spookyville, and it's a town that has 51 people, and they had potential serial killers living there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
were they raised there or did they move there?
It's a good hiding place.
That's a good question. I don't know.
For a serial killer.
Chelsea Rainstorm. No, not Rainstorm. Chelsea Rain River, I think, was her name. I'm gonna look it up. But yeah, she got killed, and someone found a picture of her in a cage, and they knew who it belonged to. And yeah, but it's like 51 people. So you got 2 of your citizens arrested. So your population's now 49, right? Well, it'd be 48 with her gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a myth. It can happen anywhere. And then another thing that me and my dad, we'd always get so aggravated because, people would say, they just seem like the nicest person.
Right.
What is that? What's
Dishwasher.
happening?
Dishwasher
so the
just
dishwasher
went off.
was running.
I was hoping you wouldn't
No,
say
it was
anything.
the ice machine at first.
The ice machine was the loud one.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they'd be like, they were such a nice neighbor. I would have never, and Dad would be like, well, they don't look like monsters. They're not
No.
walking around
I know.
looking like monsters, And so anyway, they obviously state police get involved. Everyone started looking for Carrie. The streets were lined up with volunteers, and helicopters. They were scanning the area, 50-mile radius, trying to see if they found her. Searches were done along the riverbanks. Roadblocks were set up. The local Air Force base and then volunteers from local fire departments all helped in the search.
Well, for a small town, they really stepped up.
They
didn't
did.
they?
Because they were a family-oriented community. They were close.
Right.
And they couldn't find her. So the first officer on the scene, he went to the grocery store where Carrie, excuse me, I just had a little bit of a belching episode in the middle of our podcast.
If they
Is that
saw her
Texas
there.
tea?
It's a Texas
think
The
tea.
so.
Texas water.
Goodness.
Is what did
with
it.
Texas water. So he went to the grocery store, and the store owner said she did come in. She had the receipt for milk, Coke, and chips. It was like $3. Can y'all believe in today's
Right.
inflation, 2023?
Right.
Today.
Her dad had given her $20 for the snacks. She arrived at the store around 9:30, which would fit when she left and got there. The receipt was time-stamped, so the detectives knew that she left the store at 9:55 p.m. So she was there for about 25 minutes.
Wow.
So she
Visited.
I think she did visit a little bit with the store clerk, but she might have been looking to see if she maybe wanted some stuff because he didn't say milk. And so she got the milk and, of course, the Coke and the chips.
I don't
No
think
one
that-
else was there, like kind of talking to her, being with her, anything.
Shopping.
Okay.
And back then, I don't think a lot of places had the cameras.
Yeah, I don't know if they
Because
would
it
have
was
had
so
cameras.
safe,
Yeah.
Back then, I don't know.
I just meant like the clerk.
Oh, yeah, the
why
clerk.
she was there so long.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Being a teenager, no telling. I mean, I'd tell Kent to go clean his room, and an hour later, I go
True.
in there. I'm like, "What have you been doing?"
Right.
Nothing was done. He's playing guitar with
Right.
a
broom
utensil
handle
or
or-
something.
yeah.
Right.
But the store clerk did notice that she went the familiar route down Palmer Street. So she was definitely headed back home because it looks like it was pretty much a straight shot. So she definitely was not going elsewhere. She went down the way that she would have. Then a detective Sipek arrived. He was the main investigator, it sounds like. And then less than 24 hours after Carrie disappeared, Justin Archer showed up at the police station and told them that he was visiting a friend that lived between the store and Carrie's house and that he saw her that night.
Oh.
At first, he said they didn't say anything to each other, but then later he said they exchanged greetings. Okay, so now here's the second person. It's like, which is it? Did you say something or did you not say something? I'm immediately suspicious. You tell me one thing and then you tell me another. And sure enough, the detectives were suspicious of Justin. And it's like, okay, which is it? And he also was the local bad boy. And he had several run-ins with the police.
Odd that he'd bring attention to himself.
Exactly.
But they do like, some criminals, they do like to be in the middle of the investigation.
That made them suspicious as well. So he's got a record. He's got a reputation. He says they didn't talk and then they did. And then he's the last person who saw her. So that instantly makes him a person of interest. Yeah. And also, what they felt, and this kind of goes with our local case miniseries theme, is they knew that whoever took her had to be local. They didn't think it was a stranger. Just because Ausable is off the beaten path. It's not like a community you're just going to go through when you're traveling or anything like you have to literally get off main thoroughways to get to this place.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then it gets a little bit more confusing because one report said that she had exchanged greetings with a neighbor at about 10:05 p.m., and then by 10:10, a group of boys walked by and they saw no one on the street. So between 10:05, the neighbor saying that they saw her and talked.
She must have been close to the house then.
So 5 minutes, she disappeared. And she was within 700 feet from her home.
Oh my.
And, they're wondering, and I was wondering, well, was the neighbor Justin? Was he the one that said, I saw her and blah, blah? Was it the group of boys that said they saw her? It just seems like there's a lot of people around, which actually, due to the cold, most people were inside that night. One of the things that was big with this community, and I don't know if it still is, but people would sit out on their porches on summer nights.
That's what I was saying. These people are up late.
Yeah. Yeah. So they just, that reminds me when I went to get my tattoo. He said, "Can you come back in a couple hours?" And it's 6:30. I'm all, sure. It's almost my bedtime, but yeah, I'll be there.
I get my tat.
So she literally disappeared within thin air, within 5 minutes, 700 feet from her home.
Oh, so close to her home and safety.
I don't even want to think about what she was thinking. It's just really sad. Okay. So investigator Sipek, he got a tip of a local flasher, because every small community needs to have one of those. A peeping Tom, flasher, whatever.
I get it, yeah.
And he loved harassing women. His name was Ted Pryor. He was 44 years old, and he lived a few blocks from the store. Oh. So, they got Justin they're kind of looking at. They're also looking at this guy. They haul him to the station for questioning. He claimed he was at home watching TV with his mom. Now, cops don't buy this whole I was with my mom or my dad business, which can also be frustrating because I'll never forget one guy that was eventually released, but he was literally watching TV with his family. And it wasn't just his parents. Everybody's like, he was there, and they wouldn't listen to them. So I can see both sides.
Right.
But it's like if you've got cousins and parents and grandparents and friends, and it's like this family gathering, and they're all telling you he was there the whole time. He was there the whole time.
Right.
That's happened before, too.
I know. And I
Playing
get, though.
basketball with friends.
Yeah.
With your family. Yeah.
So you think it's that they don't believe all the other people? It's not a true alibi?
I think that they think that family will hide and lie for their loved ones. And I agree. I think they will.
Look at,
Yeah.
yeah. What's
Go ahead.
What's her name?
Gabby.
Gabby. Mm-hmm. The mother lied.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started.
That's terrible.
Poop
But you know
birds.
what? I know a detective, and he says that sometimes they get sort of hardened.
Oh, yeah.
And cynical. Mm-hmm. And
I can see that. You see
I
the
could
worst
so
in
believe
humanity.
anything.
Yeah, and don't believe anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. I just think in some cases, it's like, okay, you probably need to rethink this person as a suspect maybe and look outside that box because that's just, and it was amazing the amount of people that they're like, no, he was really there. And I can't imagine how frustrating it was. They knew he was there. He gets convicted. And they're like, there's nothing we could do. To me, that would be the most helpless feeling ever. But she did verify his alibi, but they kept an eye on him, anyway, because they just weren't sure. Because they knew, a lot of times killers will start out as flashers or peeping Toms. That's what
Peeping Toms. Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy did. And
Yeah.
a lot of them, BTK. So Sipek, he also couldn't dismiss the idea that she ran away. And she had written to several friends that she wanted to live in Hawaii, Florida, or California one day. She also wanted to move when she was 18, but she was also very close to the family. Like, he could tell they were close-knit. There didn't seem to be any problems. The marriage was solid. She was happy in her relationship with her parents. It was very stable.
So they didn't suspect the parents at all?
They didn't. And also, they realized, wanting to move one day to Hawaii or Florida or California, that was an
Very
80s
normal.
kid, teenager dream, And so they pretty much, dismissed that she had ran away. But there were some rumors going around that she was pregnant and that she got scared and ran away, but it was not true. So now you've got the rumor mill. Now you've got all the gossips out. And, she was 18. She was a teenager that was planning her future.
16.
16.
Yeah.
And, she was excited at the possibility. So they knew.
Right.
They knew.
But once the rumors are out like that, some people,
Especially a
believe them.
small town.
And the parents said that was the most hurtful thing.
Yeah.
Just like being accused of molesting, or
Yeah.
even if you're innocent, people still think you are.
Yeah, like the
I've
poop
heard-
bird that
yeah.
murdered her 3-year-old and blamed her dad for molesting her.
Yep.
Casey Anthony. I won't do that case. People have asked if we'll do it. I'm like, no,
I
I have
had the
no
interview.
interest. I'll just get mad.
Yeah.
I started the interview that she gave, and I couldn't even watch it.
Yeah.
Everything out of her mouth was just
And I
bull.
actually don't believe that she intended to kill her.
I don't either, but
I think
she did.
she wanted her to go to sleep and shut up so she
Yeah.
could party.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
all these years,
Yeah.
she needed money, and they paid her
Yeah.
pretty good for that interview, blaming her father. She's just a piece of crap.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. The family held out hope that Carrie would come home, and they bought her Christmas presents every year and birthday gifts. Detective Sipek, he was concerned because the tips dried up completely, and he encouraged the family to air Carrie's story on Unsolved Mysteries, and they did. And I remember watching that episode.
I don't remember watching it.
Yeah, I watched
It's been
it
a long time.
every single week. That was like the highlight, and I think it came on Friday nights.
I watched it too. I just don't remember the cases.
And then they had tips that flooded in as far away as the South Pacific and Clovis, where my grandparents live. So,
New Mexico.
yeah. And that's why we're going to have some New Mexico chili, hot cocoa. Yes.
Cocoa.
Cocoa.
Okay.
So all of those kept Detective Sipek busy for 6 months because, had so many leads. One came from an anonymous writer in Flint, Michigan. Actually, several came from Flint, Michigan, saying that Carrie had been spotted in Utahville, South Carolina, and to look for her there, which is weird. So the tips coming from Michigan telling them to go to South Carolina to look for her. They blanketed the town with flyers, and they were shocked when a local resident, Shirley Canapel, told police, who were equally shocked, that she remembered speaking to a shy 16-year-old who said her name was Carrie. She said that 3 weeks earlier, she had seen a girl with the same hair and earrings. Several other townspeople said they saw Carrie as well. Shirley remembered many details. Police asked that she be hypnotized so that they could, go deeper and see if they could find out anything. She said it was a hot day when a little red-headed girl came up and asked Shirley to meet her new friend. The girl told Shirley that her name was Carrie and she was from New York. Shirley said that she asked her if she was down here to stay, and the girl said that she was. Shirley described the girl as having long brown hair, said she was staying across the lake, and then Shirley said that she said Kari Lynn Nixon, and that's a pretty name, as she walked away from the group. Shirley said that she had been working for 4.5 years with runaways, and she was able to pick up on some things.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And like the way Carrie evaded questions, like she didn't give any, details or anything like that. But police could not find the girl who allegedly brought this Carrie to this Shirley girl. I'm sorry, they did find her, and she suffered a memory lapse.
How convenient.
Why would she introduce her to, was it Shirley? Mm-hmm. That doesn't
Maybe
make
wanted
sense.
her to
Oh, help.
catch or help.
Maybe.
But this again is why I think it would be like hard to be a detective because it's like, okay, we've got several people that have seen Carrie, so we're going to find her. We're going to bring her home. And nothing ever came of it. Yeah. Nothing. They never were able to find Carrie. The redhead had a memory problem and couldn't remember the incident at all, which I don't think it ever happened. I'm really suspicious of Shirley, actually.
I wonder if that kid, what's his name? The hoodlum was in that area
Justin?
at that time.
Nope. Yeah, another tip raised Karen's parents' hopes because they saw her with their own eyes.
Oh.
A neighbor saw what looked like Carrie on a New Kids on the Block video. They called Carrie's parents, who also went and watched the video, and they thought it was her. And so Jonathan Knight and other band members created a video encouraging the person in their band video to come forward and gave a message to Carrie. Okay, so let me show you. This is the picture. And there's actually a semblance.
Gosh.
Right. And I'll have this on our website, outlineofamurderpodcast.com. But it looked, even the parents were like, that is her. Yeah. And so they're excited because it's like, okay, she might be in California. Maybe she did run away and she's in California. She's on this music video at a concert. And, they're like, okay, she's going to be able to come home. Okay, so here is a section. I'm hoping it has Jonathan Knight on here, but hang on one second.
Here, when they saw a videotape of a concert given by the popular singing group New Kids on the Block. On June 5th, 1989, the group filmed their Hangin' Tough live concert in Los Angeles, California. Among the crowd of teenage fans, Kathy and Kari Nixon saw a familiar face.
We couldn't believe how much this girl looked like our daughter. So we just kept rewinding it and going over and over and over, and we just couldn't believe it because we never really had any hope that she was alive. And then there's this girl that looks so much like her. I'm not 100% convinced, but it looks like our Carrie.
Upon viewing the tape, I picked the girl out immediately the first time it ran through. It was obvious to me that this girl did look like Kari Nixon and appeared to be her.
This detail-enhanced photograph was made from the videotape and compared with a picture of Carrie taken shortly before she disappeared.
There's obviously many similarities. The hair length, the hair color, the shape of the face, the chin, the mouth, and it displayed a multiple of earrings in the right ear, in which Kari Nixon has 4 earrings in her right ear and 2 in her left. So the photo-enhanced finished product further convinced the Nixons that this could be their daughter.
Members of the New Kids on the Block did not recognize the girl in the crowd, but after hearing Carrie's story, wanted to make a personal appeal.
Well, I'd just like to say to Carrie that if you're out there, the best thing to do would just be to call somebody and, even if you go to your local police and just tell them your situation, then maybe they can help you out.
Or if any of you viewers out there who have seen her at a New Kid show or just seen her on the street, if you could contact someone, to let them know where she is, or if she's all right, or anything, that would be a big help.
Don't they look so young?
Yeah.
They do.
And trying to talk,
Yeah,
and,
like an adult.
yeah.
I have a problem with it, though.
Mm-hmm.
If she was close to her family, she went to get chips, didn't bring them home, because that was her intention. She's a good girl. Why would she be all over without contacting them, knowing they're worried?
I agree.
So
And why
I
would
just
she
don't
buy
think
the
it's
stuff?
her. Yeah.
Oh, good question. Yeah, like if she had the intention of running away.
Yeah.
$20,
number one.
man.
$20.
Yeah. And that's what the detective thought too. It's like, well, why would she buy the groceries? We know she did that. Why wouldn't she pocket the $20? Because that would help her get away or go farther. It just didn't fit. But I'm sure y'all can see though
The girl
why
looks like her, but
it's like her doppelganger. I mean, it's like her
Absolutely.
twin.
a lot of people have someone that looks
Yeah.
just like you.
Not me. I'm an original.
Apparently I have multiple.
Me too. But yeah, I don't buy that she was in that concert or
Well,
traveling everywhere without letting them know. Somebody know.
and here's a little tidbit because they did 2 Unsolved Mysteries. One they had her, but the girl that is walking down the street, let's see. Yeah. The girl that's walking down the street is actually Lori
Oh,
in
really?
Unsolved Mysteries. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, she played her sister.
And you know another thing too.
Because I thought it looked a lot like her.
Yeah.
Why, if this was on the mystery, if somebody you know would recognize the other girl, the girl would come forward. Did anyone come forward and say they knew who that girl was? Mm-hmm. Oh, they did? At the concert.
Yeah, the girl from the video came forward. It was not Carrie. It was a young girl from Washington, D.C. Other reports said that she's from California, so I'm not sure. But either way, the girl did come forward. It was not Carrie. Eventually, Carrie's parents knew that she was never coming home. At some point, Gary broke down sobbing and said, "I can't fix this." And he felt that he had failed his family.
Right.
The final lead that stood out to Sipek was from Seth Matters in a new nearby village. He approached the detective about a memorial or a shrine at a tree near his property. And he said it was being maintained by somebody that knew lilies were placed there regularly. And the detective's like, okay, well, could that be where Carrie's buried? And maybe the killer is, going back and visiting her grave and all of that stuff. So they brought out, they went there and they brought out what's called a sniffer. Now, I've never heard of it. It's a device that you put in the ground and it sniffs for decaying matter.
I never heard of that.
When was this?
Especially back then.
In the early 90s at this point.
Wow.
Or maybe the late 80s. Because she disappeared in 87.
Yeah.
And it didn't detect anything, but I was like, what? I've never heard of that.
Never have either.
So what they did is they put up sensors around the area so that it would alert them the next time the individual came to drop off the flowers. So after several false alarms, which I'm thinking deer, bear, because you're in that type of the country, finally it hit on the person who was leaving the flowers, but when they got there, he was gone. So Seth saw the car, wrote down the license plate number, called the police.
Good for him.
And so the driver was a man named Barrett Michaels, and he had bought the property to build a vacation home for himself, his wife, and his daughter, but his daughter had died of cancer. So Barrett would just go there and put the flowers because he couldn't.
Lilies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he couldn't build the property,
Right.
the house anymore. So years went by. Nothing. Absolutely nothing on the case. It was ice cold. And then in January 28th, 1994, Detective Sipek received a phone call from a lawyer saying that he was representing an individual that had some information on Carrie's case. The man's name was Robert Jones, a bank robber that Sipek had arrested along with his wife. The wife was a getaway driver at the last heist with their 2 kids in the car.
Oh,
Dirtbags. Okay, so here is good old Robert. With the 80s hair, the
He looks
80s
normal.
sweater.
Yeah. Looks like a normal
Like you
guy.
wouldn't expect him. Like
guy, yeah.
when I show y'all the picture of the Phantom Killer, you're going to be shocked how nice he looks.
Okay.
It's amazing. Okay, Robert, he didn't just have any information. He actually confessed to murdering Carrie.
Why?
But he wanted something in exchange. He wanted his wife to get probation.
Oh.
In other words, he didn't want her to spend any time in jail. So he was willing to confess to Carrie's crime.
For the bank robber, the getaway part. Okay.
because he wanted his kids taken care of. Well, good for you, you poop bird.
Right.
You took away another dad's kids, but let's make sure yours are taken care of. I mean, that just, and I'm glad the kids are taken care of, I guess, by a poop bird
But how
mother
they
that
taken
drives
care
the
of-
getaway
with
car.
a mother like that.
But it's like, wow. Yeah, I'm glad you're so thoughtful. That stuff bothers me when I hear that. I'm like, ugh, as you can tell.
But they have to do it sometimes, even
I was
if you
about
don't
to
like
say.
it.
So Robert Jones told them, you know, hey, I did it. I know where she is. They're like, okay, before we talk any deals, we want proof. We're not going to just say, yeah, absolutely. We want proof. They wanted her body. So he led them through 1.5 to 2 feet of snow right to where her shallow grave was. So this is 6 years later, and he knows exactly where it is. He showed where her head was, where her feet were. They found her clothing, shoes, and the groceries that she had purchased that night.
Wow.
She was buried just a few miles from her home on Robert's family property. He was a local, just like police thought. And her parents figured that, well, by the way, Kathy and Gary, they knew him and they knew the family. Detective Sipek told the Nixons that they had found her, and all of them cried, including Sipek. The mother said it was like losing her all over again.
Yeah.
Robert saw Carrie leave the store after he bought some beer at a store nearby. He followed her. He ambushed her. He forced her into his vehicle with a gun. He then walked back to the other side of the car. So she's in the vehicle and could get out. But she was so terrified
Sure. Yeah.
that,
Couldn't move.
yeah. And he got on the other side and he drove off, and she was too afraid to make a run for it. He took her to his parents' remote cabin in Jay, New York. It's about 6 miles from Ausable. Drove past her home and raped
How
her.
much torture is that?
Raped her for several hours. He then promised to take her home, but she realized they weren't going home. So she begged him to let her go. He tried strangling her, but she wouldn't die. So he shot her
hear
in the
that.
chest.
Yeah, we hear that.
And especially with first-time killers.
Yeah.
It's not that easy to kill somebody.
No.
And so he said that he abducted her and killed her because he was upset that his wife was cheating on him, but that had never been proven.
Brother.
He's an evil person. He had committed 4 bank robberies, 2 in Maine where he lived at the time that he abducted Carrie, which makes it worse because he just happened to be home visiting family when he spotted her.
I wonder, did he kill anybody else? That's the only person?
Yeah. So 2 in Maine, 2 in New York, bank robberies, kills her. He did, though, during one heist, because I was curious too, like if maybe he had tried something in the past. He did try to kidnap a female that was outside one of the banks when he was fleeing. And
Did he say why he did it?
yeah, because he intended to rape and kill her. That's what he told his accomplice. He later settled down in Ausable. So after he kills her, he settles down in the community, and he lived 200 yards from where her body was. Detective Sipek told the Nixons that they found her, and again, they were all very upset about it. I don't know why I have that paragraph in my notes twice, but there you go. Groundhog Day. He was sentenced to life with parole. His eligibility to be paroled was August of 2015. As far as I can tell, he has been denied parole, so he filed an appeal in March of 2018 saying that he had, quote, ineffective assistance of counsel. The state said that he was the one that approached the detectives, you idiot. You know what I mean? It's like you're the one that told the detectives so your poop bird wife can take care of your kids, and then you're like, I wasn't, represented well.
I wonder if the wife knew.
I don't know.
Well, that's
Were
what
they
I was
able to
thinking.
prove it?
200 yards, you have a wife and children.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And most killers like him, they like being reminded.
but I mean, they're going to see her, you would think, or see areas.
She was buried. And by the
But a
time
shallow
Shallow
grave.
grave.
yeah, but by the time they moved there, I mean, I think it was risky. I think that if the kids ever went digging around or
Yeah.
a dog or something, it was
Dog.
all going to
Yeah.
come up. So yeah, it was a definite risky move. I think that maybe the fact that he was living on his family's property made it
Gave
worth the
some
risk.
comfort, yeah.
Or maybe he was just stupid.
He sounds pretty stupid.
know.
Or it could be he liked, like it was more important for him to be near his victim.
So here's the thing. Do you believe this was his only victim? Because he kept her close to him, which is unusual for a supposed one-time rage killer.
Well, so with serial killers, which I think he was one in the making,
but then stop.
I mean, it had been 6 years.
But look at the
BTK, but he
BTK.
killed for a while though,
And he just
before he stopped. Maybe it was distasteful, but what I have heard about, especially serial killers, their first kill is very special to them, and even Ted Bundy wouldn't say who his first was, which we think it was that little girl,
Right.
So I don't know. Again, it could be that he was able to live there because it was his family property, and maybe he didn't have to pay rent, or maybe there was some type of deal and it was just convenient, and the fact that she was there was no big deal to him. You know, it could
That
be
makes
that.
more sense. Yeah.
But the thing with the rage, though, every serial killer has rage. They just like the torture.
No, I'm thinking of a separate type of killer, like just just in the moment, rageful. You see someone, you're going to take it out on terrible things. The chopping up, the dismemberment.
But the fact that he tried to kidnap a female before tells me he was going to kill eventually. And so I think that she was an opportunity. And he was mad. He had been drinking, which that's another pattern. They seem to either be intoxicated or under the influence of drugs because it loosens inhibitions.
Right.
Yeah, it does more than that. Yeah.
Terrible.
So he does his appeal. The state said that, obviously he's the one that approached detectives about the murder, describing with excruciating detail all he did to her. So he liked it. That's why I think he was a
proud.
serial killer in the making, because he liked it. He waived his right to remain silent. He also said he wasn't coerced, and neither were his family or his wife threatened if he didn't confess. So here he is in prison after 20 years when he thought he'd be paroled and wasn't. So he was trying to use the courts to get out, and it didn't work.
Good.
The reason he's not been paroled is because he has failed to complete sex offender therapy.
20 years.
Yep. He's refused to do that. The serious nature of the crime obviously is a factor, but also differing scores on the Compass Risk and Needs Assessment. So I was like, okay, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
It has 74 questions that measures how much the offender needs to commit a crime again, and the risk of them ending up back in prison.
Interesting. Never heard of that.
No.
So he was obviously showing up as a threat.
Wow.
Yeah, I wonder how many questions he.
I don't know. And then he
Right.
won't discuss his
Right.
criminal
Score.
history. He won't say if there's more. He won't. I personally believe it was his first kill, but he won't say about any of his other criminal history. So he's being very closed off. He's not
Right.
cooperating, and he's obviously going to do it again. His wife did divorce him. Funeral services were held for Carrie February 1st, 1994 at Holy Name Catholic Church in Osable Forks, New York. She is survived by all her family but John. So her brother died of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, known as Lou Gehrig's disease. John and his wife had a daughter before his death, and they named her Kari Lynn.
Oh.
I gotta say, I very sweet. They named her that. The guilt that the father and the sister must feel.
Yep.
That
Over
would
a bag
be-
of chips. he
yeah.
probably-
That.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could get over that.
I don't either. And in no amount of words, it's like you have no part to play in this. It's you lived in a small town. You wanted, how many times did you send Carrie to get you stuff? And Lori, I mean, it wasn't, there was nothing for him to feel guilty about. But I do think that if I was in that situation, I would feel guilty.
Absolutely.
Well, and also you don't know of the media or friends that might have said something,
I don't know. I mean, the rumors that she was pregnant and stuff got started. That could have been just teenagers.
I mean about the father. Man,
I know, but what I was going to say is that it sounds like the community was on their side. Like, it doesn't sound, from what I could find out, that they were doing that to them. Yeah. But you always have those mean ones too, though.
What I was thinking, Mom, we had this discussion just last week, like whenever something happens to a child, suicide, especially suicide, especially as a mother, like I would think that you would always have that. Could I have done something different? Should I have done something different? I actually know a lady that her son committed suicide a year ago next week. And I've been coaching her, and she's a Christian. Sure.
And she's like, I had to learn through a lot of work that was his responsibility.
Nice.
It wasn't mine.
That's mature.
And she gives herself grace. Good. And she has days where she can't get out of bed.
Sure.
Or a few hours.
That's good. That's good
when someone dies, though, it's sort of natural. Because I was telling her when Mom died, people, when they have parents die, they're like, well, I should have visited her more. I should have done this, should have called more. I think any kind of death that you have some kind of guilt.
I think there's a few things. And, like the brain is trying to come up with solutions so that you never feel that pain again. So it's like, oh, well, if I would have done this more, if I would have done that, or if I would have brought him home, or whatever it is. But you have to recognize your brain is just trying to make sure you never go through anything like that again. And I think it's important not to get like it, because obviously we're not psychologists or psychiatrists, but it's important to not ignore those moments.
Yep.
Like, because emotions buried never die. And like I was telling, I don't know if I told you, but I was telling you how, I sat down at the computer, I'm working on Dragon Main stuff, and my heart rate goes through the roof. And it's like, okay, I had to pause and say, okay, why is my heart rate going through the roof? Why am I anxious? What's going on here? And then I sat there for a few minutes. I'm praying, like, okay, Father, what is this? And I was like, oh, that was the week he got sick. And I think that he was putting off going to the doctor because he knew I was busy with Dragon Main and didn't want to mess it up. Now, I could feel guilty about that, except we had been trying to get him to go to the doctor for about 2 to 3 years. And he was a Marine, and he was stubborn.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I had to pause. I've learned not to ignore, right, when things like that happen. I was surprised the response I had with my tattoo. In fact, I'm like, it makes me happy, but it doesn't.
I get that.
So it's like, man, I keep getting reminded of them.
Because it's happy, but it is a sad occasion. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. And it's a reminder.
That's now permanently on my wrist. So no, and I'm going to love it. But what I've been doing is I'm like, okay, it's all right. And you cannot avoid that. So, I was like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. When I get home, I'm going to go through all his pictures and all his letters, and I'm just going to take my time and enjoy that. But recognize when you go through something like that, don't be hard on yourself. Don't think you should be over it by now. Don't let people tell you that.
Nope. That bugs
I think
me.
that you can get in depression if you're not careful.
Sure.
But have those people you can talk to.
I hate when
and work through it.
Say, in time, because it's not always. Like I told you both, Mom's been gone 20 years this year. I hadn't even gone through her stuff.
I that would hang over me. I wouldn't be able to do that. But I do think it gets better, but it never completely goes away and it catches you by surprise. So there's no telling what he felt the rest of his life. I think as a dad and where he said, I can't fix this, that must have been the most helpless feeling ever.
Sure.
And so I hope that their life was good, and because I think they're deceased by now, and if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's a terrible case. But that's why we did it. It was, found in Dad's stuff, and hopefully, it's getting a little, philosophical on death and stuff doesn't bother our true crime audience. But I think that if we're people that like to educate and like to help people, I think those are really good things. And no one can prescribe how you grieve, and to give yourself grace and do what you need to do. But I can also say, be careful of avoiding, because it will come out eventually, and it'll come out at very inopportune times.
That's why I'm like, feel those emotions.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Very good. So now
I'm just saying.
I'm on it.
I know mine.
I know it.
All right.
You know why? Because someone said I'm that way. So that's why I remembered it.
yes.
Be smart.
Be rude.
I'm shocked. And don't be a victim. This is like the first time in, 3.5 years.
Because someone said I was rude.
You are.
You are.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Outline of a Murder is a Mr. Joseph production. What do you think, Joseph?